Hello, everyone. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated.
Councilmember Rye.
Here.
Supervisor Albrecht.
Here.
Councilmember Foreman.
Here.
Councilmember Daniele. Councilmember Istvan.
Excused. Next up is to adopt the agenda. I want to table, I'll make a motion to amend it. A table resolution number 1, add a item for special consideration for a vendor, and when the kids show up, we break and take care of them while they're here. So I'll present that as a motion. Can I have a second?
Res 1?
Yeah, resolution 1, we're going to table it until next meeting.
Okay. Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next up is acceptance of minutes. Present that as a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, next up is a public hearing for the comprehensive plan update. This is almost 2 years in the making, and this is our public hearing where the public has the ability to speak about this plan, last updated since 2009. I'll make a motion to open the public hearing. Can I have a second?
Second.
John, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So the public hearing is now open, and we'll hear from Liz Axelson from CPL. Thank you, Liz.
Good evening. My name is Liz Axelson. I'm from CPL Architecture, Engineering, and Planning, and I serve as the planning consultant to the Town of Fishkill Comprehensive Plan Update Committee and to the town board when they need me. So the Town of Fishkill Comprehensive Plan Update was prepared for the town board of the Town of Fishkill, and it was prepared by the Comprehensive Plan Update Committee. And that consists of 18 very dedicated people from the community. Some of the resource people that we have working with us are Camo Pollution Control, Inc. and Drake Loeb attorneys. So this public hearing is about the draft comprehensive plan update dated November 8, 2022. It's on the Town of Fishkill website. When you go right to the opening page, there's a link to the comprehensive plan update page. There's all kinds of documents in there, including the November 8 draft CPU and other things. Okay, that's not my phone. So there are public hearing resources on the website, and you can also find the Town of Fishkill Comprehensive Plan, which was adopted September 23, 2009. And so I'm going to just tell you how do we get started on this path. The Town of Fishkill Comprehensive Plan that was adopted September 23, 2009 is now an appendix to the CPU. And after that comprehensive plan was adopted in 2009, a number of goals and objectives were implemented. For one example, the whole new chapter of the town code, Chapter 150, was adopted in 2018. It repealed the prior zoning and put in a whole new zoning chapter. And within that, there were a couple of key items that were amendments adopted later on in 2021. There were 2 items that hadn't been done yet. One was to create the historic structures and sites regulations, and so that was adopted in 2021. And then also there were aquifer protection overlay zone regulations adopted in 2021. The purpose of the aquifer protection overlay zone is to protect the public health, safety, and general welfare by preserving groundwater, quality and quantity, and there's a major aquifer that the town's water supplies draw on. So that's the purpose of that law that is now part of zoning. One of its mechanisms has to do with the fact that if you're in a zoning district and you're also in the aquifer protection overlay district, even though maybe you can have 4 dwelling units per acre, if you're in a certain part of the aquifer protection overlay district and your land development, subdivision, or whatever includes proposed wells and septic systems, those lots are reduced to a lower density. And the whole purpose of that is to make sure that the septic systems are spaced far enough apart that they won't create a problem with groundwater pollution. So that is an issue. And if you're in that same aquifer protection overlay district and you're doing engineering designed and regulated central wastewater treatment system or municipal wastewater treatment system, then you can use the existing underlying density. So I just wanted to make that point. Also, after the 2009 amendments were made to the subdivision regulations and also to the zoning. And the zoning chapter that was adopted included residential site design standards. So a lot was accomplished. Now fast forward to September 2021 through the present. The CPU committee, they started with a draft outline of the 2009 plan. These are the basics, you know, kind of like the skeleton of the 2009 plan. And the 18-member committee started discussing that outline. And every time we met, there were comments added into the outline based on their observations, desires, wants, ideas for the town. And so that outline evolved over time, over the course of 16 or more CPU committee meetings. Let's see. Members of the committee also sat in on a number of town board meetings as part of the review process. The committee created a 35-question survey questionnaire, and that was put out on SurveyMonkey so that people could participate in that survey online, and also there were paper copies for folks who weren't computer-oriented. So there were 316 online survey responses and 37 paper responses, and the results of those surveys are appendices to the comprehensive plan update. But in the document itself, volume 1 of the comprehensive plan update, there is a summary of those responses. So the public will ultimately have access to a summary and the details. So for a year and a half, the CPU committee worked diligently, sincerely, and creatively, and they reprioritized the general goals that were in the 2009 plan. That's partly because a lot of those goals and objectives had been addressed in the zoning, and also because the committee recognized that the town of Fishkill is a very substantially developed community. There isn't a whole lot of land left to be developed, and some of it is marginal, steeply sloped, etc. There is some land to be redeveloped. So their priorities changed. They took some of the middle goals from 2009 and put them up at the top of this. So there is a table in the soon-to-be revised comprehensive plan update that shows these are the priorities of the 2023 plan, and this is how they compare to the 2009 plan. So basically, what the comprehensive plan update contains, some of the basic things: table of contents, an introduction, a vision. The introduction and the vision were really from the minds of the community through the comprehensive plan update committee. There's a description of the committee's process. What did they do to create the plan? There's a description of how they created the online and paper survey and of the results. There's a section on demographic and housing information, which I think is pretty key, and that was partly in response to the county comments. And then there's several sections which are really the core of the plan that are the goals, objectives, and strategies. And there are 11 sections, and I'll just read you a couple of the beginning goals, the top goals. Connect people and places in section A. Section B, promote good design of the built environment. Section C, create great places for people and animals. D, ensure economic and social diversity. And then it goes on from there. There's a lot about preserving critical lands, environmental resources, scenic and historic stewardship, enhancing the gateways to the town, coordinating with the school districts, and working with neighboring municipalities. And then some of the materials that have been in the comprehensive plan update that are very detailed. I believe the plan should be amended to ultimately move those things to become addenda. So those are the basics. I've begun to prepare some of the amendments so that the Comprehensive Plan Committee will discuss at their meeting on April 12th, next Wednesday. What I'm hoping to do is to send to the town board the proposed amendments to the Comprehensive Plan update so they can begin to look at those. And then I will meet with the committee, and there may be additional amendments depending on what happens in the committee meeting. I'm hoping it won't be extensive. So then the next thing that would occur is that the next day, April 13th, I'll send out an updated set of amendments to the comprehensive plan update, and that will go out to the town board immediately and to the CPU committee. I know that's a short timeline, but I'm hoping it'll work. And then it's my understanding that the hearing tonight, I'll take in whatever comments that I hear and see if there are other amendments that might be recommended to the committee. But it's my understanding that this hearing will be continued to April 19th. Let's see. Anyway, those are my main comments. I'm hoping that committee members will speak up if they want to tonight, and otherwise I'm anxious to hear what the public has to say.
Okay, just one second. Brian, do you have any questions?
No, I do not. I've just been a good observer of this entire process for a year.
You've been involved.
And unfortunately, sometimes work keeps me away. John has been truly more. Let's give him credit where credit's due. But I'm very impressed with it. I have, at this juncture, no problems with it. It's a good document, for the town.
Yeah, I think so. John? Committee did agree.
No, Elizabeth's been great. The committee's been great. We put a lot of time into this, and be anxious to hear if there's any comments.
Yeah, okay.
So what I'll do is I'll ask comments from citizens that usually don't come to these meetings. Anybody that's a citizen that came to this meeting would like to speak? Your Honor, come on.
Yes, good evening. My name is Richard O'Rourke. I am an attorney with the law firm of Keenan Bean PC. We have offices in Manhattan, White Plains, and here in Fishkill. And I'll pull this thing up a little bit. Liz is a little bit shorter than I am. So. Anyway, I'm following up on an email that I sent back on December 21, 2022, which was sent to Liz, along with Michael Nitrella, Steve Gaba, and his partner, Dominic Cordisco. And what I'd like to do is if I could just read that into the record, and I have copies of the email. And
Do you have copies we could look at while you read?
yes, sure, I have some extra copies. Just want to make sure I'm just giving you emails.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so if I may, you'll note that to whom I sent it, and it states as follows. Our client, Davis Fowler Group, has property located on Snook Road, designated as parcel number 468570. This property is presently zoned R40 and is listed in the Development Potential Summary Table of the latest comprehensive draft revision dated November 8, 2022. This property, bordered on its north by Interstate 84 and in proximity to equally heavily traveled New York State Route 9, is property most suitably zoned for commercial, industrial, institutional uses and/or any zoning designation other than present residential R40. That such is the case, readily apparent by noting its location, its surrounding area consisting of considerable commercial and retail development. The property, which previously received approval for a 90,000 square foot building, which included up to 1,000-seat church, school, administrative offices, is a prime location for quality economic development. It simply is not suitable for residential development bordering a highly traveled interstate highway. Notwithstanding the aforementioned facts and conditions, the draft comprehensive plan sets forth no recommendations for rezoning. As part of the scoping, careful consideration should be provided to examine the uses most suitable for this property given its prior history, the location bordering Interstate 84, its proximity to New York State Route 9, and its development potential. It simply is presently improperly zoned and out of alignment with appropriate careful planning considerations. Please include this in comments regarding the scoping session this evening. So we sent that, and I just have one comment, and that is this. Insofar as the comprehensive plan that, of course, is the subject of this public hearing this evening, on page 23, there is a listing of development potential summary table. And among the properties listed is the property owned by my client, and it has next to it no recommendation with respect to rezoning or town board review. I would respectfully request that the comprehensive plan update be amended so that with respect to that property, under recommendations, as it is with some other properties, just have an addition, town board to review the zoning. This property, given its location right adjacent to I-84, and on the other side is, of course, the Gap warehouse facility and the very heavily traveled Route 9, I believe that this property is more suitable, given its location, to be zoned other than 1 acre residential. It could be something in terms of a multifamily, perhaps, or some other use, but simply 1 acre zoning, it just, to be honest, I just don't see how it has any basis. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else?
Don't worry, I did not bring my entire office,
Thank you.
but I also didn't bring my glasses, so
Oh,
sorry about that. So I Ann Lagoy, I am actually on the Comprehensive Plan Update Committee, and it's been a really wonderful learning experience. It's been I think that the town has done a great job in incorporating a group of people from a very wide variety of backgrounds, anything to real estate, private business, you know, I think that we have a teacher, retired people. So that has been really wonderful, getting to know people that also live in the town and care about the town. There are a couple of things, and I look forward to having more discussion at next week's planning, the comprehensive plan update meeting. Let me find that one section, and it is in regards to wastewater treatment. And I personally feel like the language is a little bit too vague, and it can kind of set the town up for, I don't know, a lawsuit. We're in a very litigious town, apparently. For me personally, I think that the statement under Section B, hold on one second, I just want you to know, it's the objective to promote better design and reduce the number of automobile trips. Subsection F, also there may be a vacant site or a site available for redevelopment that would accommodate a wastewater treatment system. I think that may be true, but it could be definitely fleshed out a little bit better and have a more specific example and some, you know, restrictions on exactly what does that mean. I wanted to also mention on
What
page...
page is that in?
You would ask me when I scrolled down. Hold on a second. It's on 20.
18?
No, it's 20. Hang on. The one that you sent us just recently. Oh, okay. Is it 18? Greg is really good about spotting these things, or, it's 18? Okay, thank you. So page 18, Brian. And I feel like that's worthy of some more discussion. Even in context of what the spirit of that statement means, I think we could be much more specific and save ourselves a lot of heartache in the future. Also on my page 21, but I'm not sure what page that you are, talking about the found to be significant, let's see, central themes of the plan update has found to be significant based largely on comments received from the public on the online and paper survey that was conducted. So I'm not alone. Traffic is major, number one. Overdevelopment is also a major concern of people in the town. And so I was a little bit, I again, my attention is brought to the statements, focused development on abandoned or obsolete sites where development has previously occurred, which is wonderful. Specifically, the Duchess Mall site, that was cited as like number one. Everybody is like, what an eyesore. And so there is an application in the works with the planning department, or planning board, warehouse building and associated parking plus 2 vacant shopping parcels for future development to be retained by the current owner for future commercial and retail business development. So the reason why my eye is brought to that is this has been a dilapidated building for, I don't know, how many years? I've been here 25 years, I think, and it has been just a downward spiral for 20 years. And I am perplexed how a property owner would not have been required, just under our own current zoning and planning and common sense, to do something about this building. And then even in our new, beautifully updated comprehensive plan, which, I think John just said, that like 18-something meetings and coming here, Zooming and all of that kind of thing, it sounds to me like we're cutting this guy or guys or women, I don't know, it's a group, I believe, a break by saying we're going to leave you, let you retain, still a potential to build. Well, why the heck hasn't he built prior to this? And I'm sorry, I keep saying he. Why hasn't the group or groups been building 20 years ago? So that is something that really, I've mentioned this at other meetings, I feel like the residents, and I drive the gauntlet, I call it the gauntlet because it really is, and I'll speak about that later. But we've been subject to this visual horror for so many years that we are desperate for anything. And now we have a huge warehouse on a national historic site. So that's all I can say about that. Can
I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I actually have done ride-arounds with police officers multiple times, and we've gone around that site. Ever since I've lived here, since '99, I've noticed it as well. It's horrible, it's disgusting, and dangerous. It's extremely dangerous.
And
it's a den for drug activity.
Well, and let me just interject for just a moment, and you know how dedicated I am, and I will go and trap humanely cats wherever there is a need. I will not go down there anymore because I have been down on that site and overheard, activity. So.
Well, and I mean, if something doesn't happen with developing it soon, I'm very interested in having us enforce something like that because it's totally ridiculous, and I find it you know,
Can we
absolutely
retro?
disgusting. You know, I mean, but
Come on.
I don't, you know, that's the
Yeah.
thing is, why did they allow that to
Right.
go and just not, they're telling me they don't really care about anything but whatever their profits are and not about the town. It just really makes me disgusted as well, so I totally agree with you. And I hope that something happens to it soon, because I really would like for us to ask them in a more direct way to let's do something, let's make it safe, let's make it, you know, because this town doesn't deserve that. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I would like to specify, though, rather than just doing something, like something appropriate for that site. And I mean, that's, of course, arguably varies. So, you know, I do understand that we really do want to get something there. You know, it's, what it is up for debate, but I guess it's, you know, going to go through. So I am curious about the quarry operations. You know, it says other opportunities, not current opportunities, but upcoming opportunities once the quarry operations cease. There's 2 on Route 9 and then 1 on Van Wyck Lake Road. So I can appreciate that, you know, hopefully something can be done with that. I will say I spoke with the new owner of what was previously known as the Montford Mine. You sent out an email, and I appreciate that email, on the visual, again, the gauntlet, that they cleared the trees, and I really appreciate that this person spent so much time talking to me and explaining the entire process of what he is looking to do. And that is to make it overall much safer, because it can be rather treacherous. Hopefully that, you know, he does plan to take down that deli that is dilapidated. You know, there seems to be some improvement, but overall with this plan, and I really appreciate, you know, John Cantor's participation and knowledge, and really helping us kind of pick through and understand some of this stuff. So, you know, I think overall, I will hope that this document is taken seriously. You know, not for nothing, but the 2000 comprehensive plan wasn't all that bad. And yet, it was, in my opinion, really not taken all that seriously.
Correct.
And I think a lot of people
Correct.
suffered.
Correct.
And so,
You're absolutely correct.
yeah.
It shouldn't
That's
have
where we
shouldn't have taken
depend.
10 years to enforce that
Right.
comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
So,
And, you know, so,
there was different thought process back then, to where you had something written. If you're a regular citizen and you looked at this comprehensive plan from 2009, you would think it's a real good thing.
I did
But
look
if
at
you
it.
don't, but if you don't know, if you did not know what the dynamics of the town were,
Right.
you would be fooled into a sense of security.
Right. Well-
The apparatus of enforcing that and improving that 2009 comprehensive plan waited over 11 years until I got in office and implemented what was in there.
Well, I do appreciate the aquifer overlay. I do appreciate, you know, some of the other things that were done to protect. And what I am saying is, I hope that this document that we all worked very hard on is taken seriously, and, you know, the wishes of the people. I mean, the survey is there. It's not, you know, it's not a couple of individuals coming up here and just blowing wind. You know, this is, it's very serious. A lot of people, and people are busy in their lives. They don't have necessarily time to come here and speak, or they're afraid to get up and speak. Either they are worried about speaking publicly, or they're worried about getting sued. So, you know, or attacked. So, anyway, but that, I diverged. That'll be my next little speech. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. LaGoy. Public hearing for the comprehensive plan only right now. Hello?
Hello. Kevin, Wheaton Avenue. Hi, Liz. First off, I want to thank everybody. I am part of the comprehensive plan, and I shouldn't be standing up here speaking. However, we were not able to meet last week. And so I just want to come up and add actually to Ann's about the sewage treatment and the sewage issues that are mentioned in there. Throughout this process, we started early on noticing that we are very developed. And the few spaces that are not developed would be limited by both sewer and water. So what could be built on there is limited by sewer and water. Now, in our discussions, we never really went into how to fix those problems because I don't think we really saw them as problems. By putting that in there, that would try and solve one of the problems. And I think that would have changed our discussions. A lot of our discussions had started going down specific roads of need for the town. Workforce housing, affordable housing, maybe veterans housing, affordable housing, the whole 9 yards. We really didn't go too far down, even though we know that there's a need. Because we know we are limited on space. We are very developed. It's right in the opening lines of our plan. Just like we didn't discuss how to fix the water issues, because we figured, if people are going to develop, and they really want to develop, they can figure those things out themselves. I don't think it's up to us to come up with a plan to fix their issue. Oversee it, yes. Have input on it, yes. But I think that's about it. But I appreciate being part of it. John, Brian, and that's it.
Greg, don't forget Greg.
Oh, Greg.
Greg.
He was secretary, then he wasn't secretary, then he was just sitting in,
I know.
I just want to follow up on your comment about the water. I've been laser focused on protecting our water sources. We have the aquifer.
I'm sorry, I wasn't referring to not protecting it. In other words, supplying it. So if I'm going to develop on one of these properties, if I can't tap into the public water system, I would have to drill a well, which would be expensive compared to, that's what I referred to water. Not protecting it, I didn't mean it like that.
Okay, well, just to follow up, the town of Fishkill has a history of allowing developers to come into the town, do what they do, and then they abandon these water and sewer systems, and the taxpayers have to come in and pay for that with their tax dollars.
And that is my concern.
And I put the clamps down on that.
Right.
So that's being done as we speak.
Right, and I just have a scary feeling with the amount of lawyers that seem to circle around this town, that seeing
The what?
that...
The what? I apologize.
The cloud of lawyers that seem to circle around this town.
Well, trust me, the lawyers would like nothing better not to see me sit here.
Yes, we know.
Trust me.
Yes, but that unfortunately all affects us too.
I understand that.
And by putting it in there is my concern, that they could see an opening to say, we have to build one because we mentioned it. You understand? No
could
offense
be-
against lawyers, you're shaking your head over there, but they do fun things, just like we're not mentioning somebody else's property,
Yes.
what to do. So that is my concern. Unfortunately, we didn't have an opportunity, otherwise it would have been brought up at our normal one, and it will be brought up to discuss.
So just,
But-
you're absolutely correct. You can go back to the late 50s, early 60s with Dutchess Park. They put up 1,000 homes there. They had their own well fields, they had their own sewer system. They went defunct, bless.
Excuse me.
The residents ended up taking it over. We've had major problems with the 1,000 units on Merritt Boulevard with sewer. We finally took care of that. We had a sewer pipe breakdown on Route 9D, cost us $100,000. Beacon Hills.
Goes on and on and on.
Beacon Hills was a $5.4 million project. Thankfully, we got a $3 million loan, a grant, which we wouldn't get today. So water and sewer infrastructure is our biggest problem, and I've seen it for decades, years, and if you look through the history of the town of Fishkill, the developers were able to do this because they were allowed to, and then they walk away and the residents would pay for that. That's not happening under my watch, so don't worry about that.
Well,
Not as much.
no, ultimately, we have done our part. We have tried to lay down a vision, hopefully, for the town going forward. I think we did very good.
Yeah.
We did a lot. Thank you for your assistance in that. However, as you also pointed out, it all depends on who's going to be up there.
Correct.
What we write is only suggestions. but it's going to be up to you. So whoever's watching or in the crowd, it's up to who's sitting up there to fulfill our vision and hopefully everybody's vision. We took input from a lot of people. Thank you, everybody who did the questionnaire.
And that's an important comment. Before I took office, December of 2019, my predecessor left a plan to connect Merritt Boulevard, Merritt Water District to the Brickhoff Water District. It was a $5.6 million plan that the taxpayers would end up paying for it. I've got that plan down to the bare minimum for around $1 million, and we're going to use ARPA money to pay for it, so there'll be no cost to taxpayers. It makes a difference
It
of
does
who's
make
running
a
the town of
difference.
Fishkill.
I know, Ozzy, it does.
All right.
It
thank
really
you.
does. We have noticed, even up here talking, the ability for us to talk and be heard is quite a big step and is quite a change.
I will
you.
say, Kevin,
Yes.
if I may,
Yes.
everyone's concerns in this town when it comes to traffic, you know, is an issue. Everyone's concerns on water, especially at this point in time, is a major thing. These are not small issues, and that I was just glad to see the work going to this and the emphasis from the community. And there are things going forward I'm sure we're going to have to continue to tackle. I know the best way to stop traffic is to put some, barriers on the bridge and divert through Poughkeepsie, but so we're going to have to do the best we can, but being on guard is a major thing.
Yeah, and traffic is going to be what it's going to be. And some of the things that can limit certain things is, water and sewer and things like that, There's not much you can do about traffic.
Precious resource. In the future, across the country, water is going to be more and more precious,
Yeah.
It's endangered in many communities. You just named the reason, and so it's very important.
Yes. And so everybody just has to keep their eye on
Yeah.
this board. We did our work and make sure that our good work and hard work, pretty much everybody was someone from a citizen, besides Liz. All community. And from what you had said, you're more familiar with this, that's not the norm. So you have a lot of concerned citizens, and you did open it up to us. You picked only those who actually applied, who showed up. But, and everybody had a say and was listened to, and it was a good process.
I especially like the survey that was put out there. It really, you guys worked very hard to make sure that reached a broad audience, and it's a lot of work, therefore, to sit through all that and condense it down. So I was just really taking all that in as well. So.
And those who participated in our open house, taking their time out on it was a Saturday. So, but unfortunately, we do have to just keep an eye on the ball to make sure that these things that I think we can all agree on, if anybody gets a chance, do look at it. It was well done. Besides my little issue, which again we can discuss, I think it went well. So,
Thank you very much. Anybody else, please? Only for comprehensive plan right now. Comprehensive plan questions.
Questions or comments?
Comments.
Okay. I am a resident of Beacon, and I share a lot of the same services. I commend this committee and town board. I have been following this process since its inception a year and a half ago. I am a strong advocate to the process and glad to hear that the town of Fishkill is strengthening its comprehensive plan to protect its aquifer and to strengthen your historic stewardship to preserve and commemorate significant historic and archaeological structures and sites. I encourage you to follow through with this committee's hard work and implement their goals into the next draft and final document. If a property sits on an aquifer or on compromised water and sewer site, it should follow the updated aquifer and water and sewer protections guidelines going into your new comprehensive plan and not be grandfathered into previous codes and laws. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Arnold? Our town historian, everyone?
Yes, but I'm not speaking as a town historian, although what implications the comprehensive plan has does have an impact on the historic nature of our town. And just as a side comment, the reason why that the warehouse is being put up in Dutchess Mall, from what I know firsthand, being in the real estate industry, is because traffic patterns and zoning have changed along the I-84 corridor that made that site extremely valuable. So that's why that they're putting up a warehouse there. But I wanted to speak about the Greenway themed trail that the comprehensive plan calls for. And I would strongly advocate a multi-use trail where we would have a rail and trail together, because a trail conversion cannot easily or inexpensively be reconverted back to a rail and trail. If you look at the plan that I can envision seeing, it would be in direct agreement with New York State's climate agenda, because what it would do is reduce, if we were to have a rail and trail, we would be able to bring people up from the city into our communities, into the different neighborhoods and trails that we have along the rail line. There are avenues of not necessarily making it where that it's a fuel-based means of getting people up into the communities, because there are things such as rail bikes, such as the Glide Rail or Rail Adventures. They have actual bicycles that are also handicap accessible. But to go back to why that I think it's important is, if you go back to what similar rail and trail programs have provided, there was a most recent study that I found here in New York that would be most comparable, which was done north of Albany, where that it provided back in 2011 $3.7 million in direct economic impact to the communities along the line. It provided 92 full-time jobs, and an indirect impact, economic impact of $5.4 million and 138 jobs, full-time jobs. As you know, that it's important that we try to recover from the pandemic. A lot of our businesses have really struggled. If we were to turn around and actually have rail and trail, we would be able to mimic certain sort of excursions like the Maryland Scenic Railroad, which is a seasonal bike. It has a seasonal bike ferry service, which provides, of course, people are not going to bike out in the wintertime. But the National Park Service in 2007 formally adopted using rail as a preferred alternative to bring in long-distance visitors to different areas by removing unnecessary automobile traffic. And so that if we were to have some sort of a rail and trail, we'd be able to provide or entice people to come up on day trips from the city, where that they can either take an excursion or even try some of the rail bike adventures or walk along the trail. I mean, I'm assuming that makes sense.
Sure it does.
So that's what I was going to suggest. I mean, as far as the plan, and not necessarily advocate for the complete removal of the tracks, because this line was really the original Newburgh, Dutchess and Connecticut Railroad, which provided anthracite that was shipped all the way up into Connecticut and Boston, eventually in Boston. And it was a major economic wheel or economic avenue in our communities up until the early 30s. So just something to think about, to maybe consider that we would put a rail and trail as opposed to ripping up the rails.
I think there've been some other people that have suggested the same thing. So it's like, where do those investment dollars come from? And it's a grand idea. There's no doubt about it.
Well, if you're thinking about this.
Did you say? I'm sorry, Arnold. Did you say you had some sort of report from some other town doing that? I'm just
Yes.
curious. I mean, I'm curious.
I could email it to you.
Yeah, I would. Would you?
Sure. There's also, and as far as, when you're looking at bringing back any sort of service on that line, you could bring it up to Class Class 2 or Class 1 service, and that would not be that expensive overall.
Mr. Cantor, do you know who owns that line? Did we establish that in discussions?
It's an NCA North Line.
Is it?
Mhm.
Okay. MTA Metro North Line, so you're talking about a bureaucracy to go through to get anything accomplished there.
True.
Yeah.
True. But it can be done, and there are nonprofits that would get involved in actually trying to provide some sort of rail and trail service.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Arnold,
Good
thanks.
job. Anybody else? Mr. Cantor?
All right.
Our planning board chairman?
Hi, Jonathan Cantor, also a member of the Comprehensive Plan Update Committee. Notice I didn't bring any papers to
Thank
read
you.
off of or anything like that, so I'll make this really quick. But I think one thing I wanted to mention, besides wholeheartedly supporting the adoption of this plan, and I think it's really close to being ready to go, but one thing I wanted to mention, which Liz kind of began to mention, but the Comprehensive Plan Update Committee has already seen a preview version of a revised version of the plan that really is coming together nicely, that has photographs and maps and reorganization. So the tough parts to read through are going to be in appendices and addendums now, and have the main body of the text be very readable and understandable. And yet have the information available, so that people want to look at all the details will be able to see it. So that'll be available really soon, and hopefully as soon as that is in the proper form, that should also go on the website. I just wanted to also say it's been a pleasure working on the committee on this update and working with all of you people who have helped out with it, and especially thanking Liz for all of her hard work on it. It's been great. I'll just really quickly refer to the section that's been brought up by a couple of people on the committee talking about the public sewer and water questions. I put together like a page-and-a-half email to the committee after I looked back at that section, talking about that you really have to look at the context of that objective in Goal B, Objective 1. That subsection F is just one tiny portion of what that whole section of the plan is about, which really is focusing on promoting compact development and smart growth. And that's really the key to what public sewer and water are all about, promoting the ability to have compact development, cluster subdivisions, which is in many ways can be a better form to preserve sites, preserve wetlands and steep slopes on sites. You are able to move buildings closer together, more compact development, preserve open space on the sites. And so the point of that part of that section that people have been referring to, I think, is really more in the way of not saying, well, developers are going to have more rights to develop properties than they do now. That's not it at all. The town board is totally the board that deals with zoning and rezonings and any possible zoning changes in the future. The town board is also the board that deals with the provision of public water and sewer in appropriate areas if there are needs identified. But traditionally, it is developers who have to be responsible financially to make any extensions to the public water or sewer system work. And if anything, we need to make sure that any future development where there are going to be extensions to public sewer and water are done properly and with looking into the future, so that those can actually be done in a way that will help the town instead of create burdens for it, as you've been talking about. Anyway, I suggested to the committee when I sent that email message that if anyone has any ideas for rewording that one tiny little section F, to get it around to the committee beforehand so that we don't spend an hour talking about that at the committee meeting, because I think we have a lot of other things that we need to talk about. And I think hopefully, that can be clarified and just...
Do you see a big problem with it right now, the way it's worded? I didn't read your email, but I'm going to.
I didn't see a problem with it, but I also can see that it could certainly be clarified if people have questions about it. But rather than discussing it and worrying about it, I'm just suggesting to the committee to come up with some wording that in their minds would resolve it. But I think it's an appropriate statement to have in there because there are a number of parcels that are available for development still, not many, but there are some. Some of them already have existing, if not public, private sewer and water systems like the Women's Correctional Facility that is now not a correctional facility anymore, and the state is looking at things that could be done there. Well, there might be opportunities to use the systems that were there for development that's going to come in. That's the kind of thing that I think we're talking about.
Excellent.
So anyway, that's it, and I'm just really glad that we're nearing the end of the process. And again, thanks for all of the board's help in getting it to this point, and we really look forward to it being adopted really soon.
I compliment you, Mr. Cantor, on your expertise you brought to it and all the work you did. And it was educational listening to you many times, so.
I'd like to say thank you for your dedication to the citizens of Fishkill and the Planning Board. Since you've been chairman, I've seen a dramatic improvement of how the board is operated, and I appreciate you being on this comprehensive committee very much.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity.
My honor.
All right.
Thank you, sir. Yep. Anybody else? I made this a light agenda, so I didn't make it speak for as long as they want, except her. No, you can come. Come on.
I will be brief, I promise. My name's Tanny Ann Ball, and I live on Sunrise Hill Road, which I was so happy to see featured in the comprehensive plan. As some of you know, I've stood up here quite a few times just trying to raise awareness and understanding about the plot of land that our house sits on. It's not visible from Sunrise Hill Road what is behind our property, but it's a significant area of biodiversity and wetlands, streams, calcic sort of rocks, and we first became aware that there was some planned development nearby when our neighbours, Russ and Annette, told us about the herring sanitation proposed development. I'm not going to talk about that today because this is about the comprehensive plan, but I did want to thank deeply everybody who's been involved in putting the plan together, the countless hours I'm sure volunteers have committed, and thank the board for supporting the listening process and the fact that you appear, and I'm sure we'll follow through on really understanding the value of the biodiversity and the aquifer and the watercourses that we have in Fishkill. Even if they're not immediately visible from the roadside, they are there, and they're pretty stunning. We had an independent report made by Dr. Eric Kiviat that detailed, the extent of the kind of the value of, not monetary value, the environmental value of the land behind us. So I draw attention to your goal E, to conserve critical lands, objective 3 on page 30, the critical environmental area proposal. Made me very happy to see that. If there's any way I can support or be involved in, making the area behind our property protected somehow, I'd be very excited and interested in that. I was gratified to hear Brian say tonight, quote, "Water is not a small issue." great quote. You also said water is endangered. And just to hear those words of appreciation, you know, for the natural
I've
environment
been reading
is
about it
really
for
makes me
years.
happy.
And people aren't aware, you know. It's kind of critical.
Right. Yeah, and we are on well water. Up on Sunrise Hill Road, all of us, it's Hunt's development, and also on Old Route 9, we have well water. So we not only are we very conscious of the environment and protecting the water body that's there, but also, you know, our drinking water as well is critical. So thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Annette?
Minute O'Malley, 142 Old Route 9. And my only issue really with the comprehensive plan, and I appreciate all the hard work and all the time that's gone into this and all the environmental things that have been mentioned, is on page 18, F. And I believe it is true, it's in the wording. Like Mr. Cantor said, that it could be reworded so it is not so open-ended, and I'm going to read the words to you. It says, also, there may be a vacant site or site available for redevelopment that would accommodate wastewater treatment system. Now, is that is that like in a residential? I know this doesn't have to do with zoning, but you know, nobody wants to wake up to find that in their backyard. That's what I'm saying. And so I think there needs to be something added to that to protect some of the residents, you know, most of the residents in this area that wouldn't find themselves 20 feet away from this. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Anybody else? Anybody want to speak again? I've made this a very light agenda so people can speak. Brian, any comments?
Nope.
John, any comments?
Are we keeping this open to our next meeting?
Yeah.
Supervisor, before
Yes.
the board moves, I would like to speak as a member of the committee.
Then go up and speak again.
Good evening, Greg Tatino, Secretary and Comprehensive Plan Update Committee Secretary. I'd just like to take a moment to acknowledge some people who haven't necessarily been at the forefront of everything that's been going on, but this process has been going on for nearly 2 years. So with that in mind, there are 9 town council members, past and present, who have been involved. Supervisor Albra, Councilwoman Daniele, former council members Ori Brockfeld, Joe Bono, Kenya Gadsden, Jackie Bardini, and of course, our current council members, Carmine Isvan and Brian and John, who have been heavily involved in the process. And we thank you for your leadership and participation and support in this endeavor. We have had the support of our previous town attorney, that's Farrick Nugent McCartney, our current town attorney, Drake Loeb, and Megan LaCicero, who has been serving as a legal counsel to the Comprehensive Plan Committee. She deserves a hearty round of applause. So too does our town videographer, Pete. He's in the room there, but he has been present for all of our meetings, making sure that there is full transparency and that the public can observe and take part when possible in everything that's been going on. With a document as important as the comprehensive plan, it has been critical that the process be as open to the public, that information be available to them, and that when they're able to participate, they do so. So the turnout that we received at our open house event, the volume of individuals who responded to our survey are highly encouraging, as is the fact that we were able to take all of that input and reprioritize what was a very good comprehensive plan from 2009 and restructure it in a way that reflects the will of the people now. And that fills me with great optimism that once it is adopted, that this town board and future town boards will keep that comprehensive plan at the front of their minds and use it as a guide for their legislative agendas, given how clear the weight of public opinion has been on the matters of the future of the town of Fishkill. So it's been a pleasure to serve on this committee with everyone who's been involved, and I know that the board will be continuing this to the 19th, and I look forward to the public hearing on that night as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Just to follow up, anybody else want to speak? So this will be our 5th comprehensive plan. There was one in the early 60s, early 70s, late 80s, late 2000s, 2009, and I reviewed every single one of them, and they were all pretty good, but as the citizen mentioned earlier, they just weren't being enforced or followed. I reviewed all these documents, especially the surveys, and the overdevelopment was the number one issue. As supervisor, I probably stopped well over 1,000 new high-density housing units coming into the town of Fishkill by simply just enforcing the zoning laws. How simple is that? We do have blights that mentioned about the Dutch of Small for decades. It's not everybody's preferred project, but it is what it is. It's going to go up. It's going to create, depending on automation, between 75 and 150 jobs, starting around $55,000 a year. So it's going to be most likely be a benefit to the residents of Fishkill. Just like to touch on traffic, we are working on traffic. We are working with the county to do a new Washington Avenue bridge. That should be done in a few months. I'm working with the town of Wappinger supervisor, Richard Thurston, to do a 9D study. The problems with 9D is that intersection by the bridge. We need extra turn lanes and the lights to be cycled. That's pretty much it with the 9D. The water, huge concern. We did the aquifer protection. We also followed up with an in-kind donation of close to $175,000 with the state, doing our DWSB2 to protect our water. They did an awesome study identifying our risks and how we can protect our water source, and it's going to be at the state level where we have communications. So 10, 20 years down the road, a future town board, it's going to be very, 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 very difficult for any future administration to change those water laws to make it easier to corrupt our water system. As for the quarry, none of us are going to be around by the time that is out of business. They probably got another 40 years of mining over there, and we do need the mining for asphalt roads, that type of stuff. Somebody mentioned housing. Once this has been passed, hopefully at the next meeting, we're going to focus significantly on our housing affordability. We have currently about 40 units of housing that's in our housing law that's being used. We have 2 affordable housing units in the town, and the big thing that we got to do is we got to figure out how we retain volunteer firemen and volunteer ambulance people to keep them in the town, because we don't want to have a paid fire or a paid ambulance system, because you'll be paying more and those services than you're paying in school taxes. So once we're done with this, we're going to start focusing on this housing issue. So we're short 2 board members tonight. They've been excused, so I'm going to make a motion to continue the public hearing to the next meeting. I'll present that as a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
John, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I make a motion to take a 5-minute break. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Take it.
5-minute break.
Yeah, fine.
All right.
The 23rd.
Make a motion to go back into regular course of business. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No new employees today. Next up is privilege of the floor for general town items. Anybody wish to speak about town items? You go first.
Good evening. Teresa Kraft. A little over a mile as the crow flies, 126 years ago, these words were read to honor the men buried at the Fishkill Supply Depot burial ground. In 1776, the Council of Safety of Fishkill erected, at Washington's request, a burial ground across from the barracks. As we unveil the memorial, he reads there, beneath the arc of the 13 stars carved in granite, commemorative of the 13 original states, these graceful words of patriotism and gratitude penned by the esteemed lady, Mrs. Verplank, Regent of the Mislinger chapter, so prominent and efficient in the work and the effort that has caused the assemblage and this ceremony. Remember these words, they tell them, and they tell you and all, the story of the days and the events we commemorate. Listen to them. In grateful remembrance of the brave men who gave their lives for their country during the American Revolution and whose remains repose in the adjoining field, this stone is erected. End quote. Our shade has vanished. He has recognized the spirit and the work here. May their example spread over the land until no spot or incident of that grand struggle remain without some mark to perpetuate the memory of its good and its glory for the mankind, quote. Yet today, April 5th, 2023, we stand together here in Fishkill Not far from that historic site, bearing witness to the recent past few days, when the lands of the site were clear-cut and stripped, were butchered of its infill trees that beat the threat of the Indiana bat season. Raping the land without the final approval from Dutchess County for the proper water and sewer permits is a travesty. We should not have to bear witness to the blatant mockery of seeing a replica of the Beacon Fire Tower built out of the fallen logs. This 1897 monument may have been moved further up the road to make way for a wider Route 9, but its moral remains the same. This battle is far from over. Greed should not be allowed to pave over our history. Please, follow your new comprehensive plan, pass it.
Thank you. Anybody else? Ms. Anderson?
It's cold in here.
It is, I think it's hot.
Bridget
Over.
Anderson, 29 Pritchard Court. I didn't actually come tonight to say anything, but now I have to share my thoughts. There's been a number of comments made about the Dutchess Mall and the south end of that complex that was falling down and has been a safety hazard. I just want to point out to the town board and anybody who's interested, the fact that probably 2 or 3 years ago, I took pictures of that site, and we have a vested interest. My employer has a facility there. I took pictures of those of the site and sent notes, including the citations of the Property Maintenance Code of the state of New York, in which the town could have and should have done something about it. Just as I believe the town's doing it, I think it's a property on 82. The town should have stepped up, forced the landlord to take the building down and make it safe. And if they refused, then the town should have stepped up, had that work done, and charged through their tax rolls the owner. And the town's had the ability to do that for as long as the New York State has had the Property Maintenance Code. I didn't know this was going to come up, otherwise I could tell you how long that's been in existence. I've put in an email, I think you all know that I don't email the building department unless I email the town supervisor. I couldn't find it on my phone. But that was pointed out, and it was pointed out the town had an obligation to do that and did not. So as much as you want to blame the people that own it, the town let them get away with it. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, that's the end of that.
Nope.
Ms. LeBoy, I apologize, you're up.
Thank you for that information. Okay, so, I have a couple of things that I wanted to mention. And this is in regards to the old comprehensive plan, but still relevant to what I'm going to comment on. That it says in the 2009 comprehensive plan, all interests, whether public or private, have a stake in attractive, orderly, and environmentally sound community. Studies overwhelmingly show that real estate values remain stable in communities with high-quality open spaces, protected scenic view sheds, and intact historic resources. The next thing that I'd like to read is from the latest e-newsletter, eGov newsletter, and I read those, and I appreciate them very much. Fishkill history preserved ahead of America 250. As Fishkill and the entire nation look forward to America's 250th birthday in 2026, the town is already hard at work preserving the town's incredible history and planning its celebrations in honor of the semi-quincentennial. Recently, Town Supervisor Ozzie Albra learned from a local history buff that the Beacon Historical Society maintains a copy of an old scrapbook belonging to the Melzinga chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution, which dates to the 1890s. At that time, the city of Beacon had yet to be incorporated and was part of the town of Fishkill. I'll move forward, and similarly, as Teresa has already quoted, the Melzinga chapter organized for the erection and dedication of a special memorial marker commemorating the hundreds of Revolutionary War soldiers who died and were buried in the Fishkill Supply Depot burial grounds. So the comprehensive plan both previous and the current one that is still being discussed does talk about gateways and other parcels being, welcoming people into Fishkill. And I again bring up what I call the gauntlet. And this is the corridor going from, heading north from Cold Spring into Fishkill along Route 9. I, again, did speak to the gentleman who now owns the mine and spoke to him about doing the clearing. Everything is in preparation to avoid the migratory pattern of the Indiana bat, which I am curious, does the town know where these caves are? I bring up the caves because during hibernation, clusters of up to 500 bats per square foot form. Per square foot, can you imagine that? 500 of those suckers form in hibernation. In the wintertime, they hibernate in caves and mines, so Fishkill is perfect for this. In the spring, reproductive females migrate from the hibernation to form maternity colonies in wooded areas where each female bears a single pup that is raised within the colony. And doesn't that sound adorable? But we don't care about adorableness. What we want to know is where it's going to hit us in our pocketbook. Dutchess County is an agricultural county. These bats are very efficient workers, and they kill the bugs and pests that attack our agriculture. So that is one reason why these animals are actually on the endangered list and on a protected list. So I wanted to bring that up because as you move north, you have the two mines on either side, and then you move a little bit further and there's like the, workers, the aggregate workers area. I don't want to mention them, but it's a smaller area. They're going to be building 3 more buildings, and they've cut trees down, but it isn't quite as shocking to the eye as you're heading up and you see the mines going up the mountain because there's no more mountain. We've already spoken about the warehouse and it being an eyesore, and it really is, again, very disappointing that, we are kind of, so desperate for something to happen on this site that, the warehouse. There's the wetlands, the aquifer overlay, which I really appreciate the town is now recognized. So this turns into something that becomes, is it private ownership versus the town benefit? And I understand that, private ownership is very important and people can do what they are legally able to do. So moving further north, past the warehouse, then on the eastern side of Route 9, you have the proposed doomed to fail Continental Commons project. He does not have approval by the county. He was yet allowed by the town to cut all of the trees. And I want to specify for people, because I did do some phone calls with the DEC, and also I spoke with the building inspector, and he does have his permits to clear. The difference is that he's cut the trees but not uprooted the trees. So there's no quote-unquote land disturbance. It's just a visual disturbance and an air disturbance and a wildlife disturbance, but who cares about that? Because again, it's this particular person is going to be pushing this forward. It is extremely disappointing that he was permitted to clear these trees out. I do have several questions about the process. Who is watching to make sure that it is being done correctly? The DEC, it's not in their purview because it's just tree cutting. And we are in a home rule state. And what that means is it gets kicked down to the most local governance body to adhere to the laws. So my question is, again, who is watching to make sure, and I ask this specifically because there are these silt fences, they're black material that goes along the tributary on that property, the tributary to the Hudson River, very important component to our water safety and health. So, and perhaps I'm misunderstood this, but the silt fence, I thought, was to protect the tributary from, you know, incoming silt and dirt and debris and so forth, but also to guide what trees are and are not allowed to be cut. So then I thought, gee, maybe it's a certain width of the tree that they can cut right up to the bank of this tributary. Maybe it's just, you know, the few inch wide trees, but no, there are significant trees that have been cut. So again, I don't know, I make some phone calls, and I mean, I'm not a, you know, a simple person, but I'm also not trained to observe this, and I'm not trained or paid to go and look at these particular sites and make sure that this, you know, that the developer, and not just this one developer, but other developers are following the law. We depend on our elected and appointed officials to make sure that these things are being followed. And I can't help, you know, but think, because there's been, you know, debate, kind of one-sided debate, that maybe there's no burial site there. You know, it's the big claim. I suppose we could think that the Daughters of the American Revolution are exaggerating or lying about graves, but when I myself was an active member of the Daughters of the American Revolution, I did not get a sense from anyone in the Meltzinga chapter that they believed this not to be true. So again, looking at even the past comprehensive plan, we were supposed to preserve our history. And this magnificent site is just under constant attack. And not to mention the individuals and citizens that live here that might dare to speak up run the risk of being sued.
Yes.
I myself have been victim of slanderous statements right here in this room. I was accused of a federal crime that I tampered with these grave sites. The first time that I was accused of that, I was so dumbfounded, I didn't say anything. The second time, I was prepared, and I did speak up for myself. But, you know, it I think makes people not want to run for office. It makes people not want to get involved. Even with the Comprehensive Plan Update Committee, there were people that were involved with that had other life obligations, but in the back of their mind, that also was part of their decision to no longer be involved. And so it's situations like this. It's just heartbreaking. I don't know how else to say that. It's just heartbreaking, and the trees are still there, and the pile of logs. I don't know. Is he going to ask for a fire permit so we can have a giant funeral pyre? Like, I don't understand how time and again it is just bulldozed right through instead of the town, the elected officials, not everybody, but, you know, appointed officials not taking a firm stand and saying, you know what, you don't have the proper permits right now, so we're not in any rush to cut down acres of trees. And I never understood this, you know, we'll do it before March 30th because of the migratory pattern. So now they have nothing to come to. Like, how does that make sense? It's just a disgrace, and it disgusts me, and I have to endure that drive several times a week. And I literally thought to myself, well, okay, how can I go another way so I don't have to look at this disgrace? And I'm thinking, well, the other ways aren't that much better. So, you know, these gateways into Fishkill, they're not so welcoming. And you can't ever get those trees back. And and I'll send you the picture, because I took more pictures. The plaque that they had, that was put up to acknowledge this site, literally has felled trees surrounding it. I'll send you the picture. It's just, it's a mockery. And you know what? The ones that are looking really foolish is the town of Fishkill. What a disgrace. And, you know, we're talking about bringing in economy and that millions, other sites, other historic sites bring in millions of dollars. And the thing that has always puzzled me, why the heck didn't they swap land and use the Duchess Mall for something like this, you know, a pancake house? I mean, please. That's it.
I appreciate your comments. Anybody else want to speak? All right. Oh.
I don't speak much in public anymore since COVID. My name is Candace Lee Coates. I am one of the founding members of the Fishkill Historical Society, of which my mother was a very proud founder. We were one of the people that found the mile marker that is now on top of the Osborne Hill Road by the Jewish Cemetery as you go up 9. I was involved in the digs where the historic grave sites were. I was involved with the dig site across the road, which is now the eyesore of the Duchess Mall. I am also a card-carrying member of the DAR chapter, of the Singer chapter. I am disgraced and disgusted by what's happened with this supposed development, and the fact that this guy is even proposing to put up a mock copy of our chapter house. That's disgusting. He shouldn't be allowed to do any of this stuff. Yes, I know, I understand he owns a property, but enough is enough. Haven't we destroyed enough history in this town? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else? I will close that out and go to supervisor comments. I've gotten a lot of phone calls about the trees getting cut down in the Continental Commons property. I urge the citizens of Fishkill to take a drive by there and see what Ann has been talking about. It's all gone. But now that the trees are cut down, you'll be able to see exactly where the Revolutionary War Cemetery burial ground is. You'll be able to see Race Run. That bisects the property. So when you're in the area by McDonald's, you'll see Van Lake Road. So the property lies east of Route 9, north of Van Wyck Lake Road, south of Race Run, and maybe an acre to the east. You'll be able to clearly see where this Revolutionary War burial ground is. In one of the historic books, Historic Sketches of the Town of Fishkill, a young girl wrote in a book when she was a little kid, she saw the dead from the Battle of White Plains stacked like cordwood at the intersection of Route 9 and 52 in the town of Fishkill. Now, Route 9 didn't go north of that at the time, but there was between the two churches. That's where the bodies were because it was the ground was too frozen to bury them. In 1897, the property owner allowed the DAR women to put up the DAR monument. They were very vocal that it took women to do this and the men couldn't get this done. And the town board of the town of Fishkill in 1897 passed a resolution allowing this to happen. So everything was good until the mid-70s. Mid-70s, they expanded Route 9, and they moved the tablet. Once the tablet got moved, history was forgotten. And this is why there's such confusion today. So again, I appreciate what the ladies have spoken about. I do consider that a sacred trust to make sure our burial ground, where our Revolutionary War soldiers are not desecrated. And I'll be working with the town board in the future to see what we can do about that. Because I believe I know it's a historical treasure, and it needs to be preserved. And the developer recently, maybe about 2-3 months ago, in his favorite paper record, indicated that he wants to put a museum and an amphitheater on the site. So contrary to the plans that he had in the planning board where he's going to preserve it, he's already changed his mind what he wants to do with it. So I'm going to be vigilant watching it, and I want people to keep contacting me, and certainly the residents of Fishkill, take a ride down by the McDonald's, you'll be able to see this site. It's one of the things, when they cleared it, you're going to be able to see it, how it really sits. So that's my comment on the Continental Commons project, and he does have a right to cut the trees down. That is part of that. And I just want to make a mention about the blighted properties in the town of Fishkill. The Duchess Mall, for decades, was sitting there. And if it's secure, boarded up, there's not much we can do with that. So there was about 5 properties that we did an inventory on in the town of Fishkill. We knocked down 2 houses. The other 2 complied. And one, we just recently did a water and sewer extension to preserve a beautiful old house. So we were able to save 1 house, 1 got boarded up properly. And as a lady mentioned earlier about the 8252 project, they came in last week. That's going to hit the planning board soon. They redid the facade to match the statue out there, so it can blend in more to a historical purpose of the northern gateway of the town of Fishkill, which we're working on. So that's the only comments I have as supervisor. Next up is liaison member reports. Brian, any comments?
Yes. I just want to commend our police department. We had a constituent in Forge Brook that has come before the town board multiple times to talk about traffic conditions that are unsafe when you exit off of 84 at 52 at the I-84 diner back in Forge Brook, that Heath Road. So the community service officer, Nesbitt, went out and spoke with Mr. Cardinal and had a good conversation, and observed on the spot while he couldn't reach Mr. Cardinal, he noticed that there are a lot of people running the red lights. So I'm pleased to report that the police have decided to make that a target area. They will be stationing a car in the area to try to catch and ticket those who are running the light. Another thing that they hope to be doing is working with DOT on the lights right there. From what I understand from just anecdotal conversations, that if all lights are red at the same time and remain that way for a few seconds, then no one is moving, and then eventually a green light in one part of the intersection will go, and it just makes it's a timing thing and allows cars to be at a dead stop. So that's something that they're going to be looking into for that particular piece right there. There was another traffic issue. We all know what 9D is like, which, by the way, I have to bring this up, Supervisor. I actually looked into initially what a study of the 9D corridor between Wappinger and Fishkill would look like, as far what could be done. You're saying that you're working with a supervisor in town of Wappinger. I know that that's good, and I hope you can come up with some monies for that. The unfortunate thing that I discovered at the time from, and so just be on guard for this is all I'm saying, is that out of a traffic study to come up with any solutions, you create a district, a taxable district. So anyone living along 9D will be taxed to pay for any highway changes, and that's just, of course, something that can't be done. You know, people who did not create the problem, because traffic is coming from everywhere going down 9D to get over the bridge and come up from the bridge and everything else. So just be on guard for that type of thing.
Somebody's mentioning they want to create a traffic district?
No, that would be the solution in order to make traffic changes, light changes,
Yeah.
widening of lanes and everything else. So that, again, just be on guard for that. you know.
Yeah, I'm going to tell them a flat-out no for that.
Well,
so.
you can't,
That's not
because,
gonna happen.
we need solutions, but we don't need to pummel people financially for a problem that they didn't create.
So, and this just follows up with the water and sewer. The developers come, build all these units, they leave, then you got to pay for your water and sewer infrastructure. And now the proposal is to fix last administration was talking about preparing draining districts. Now this comes up. It's just, the developers had too much power over the years and were able to do this, and now us taxpayers have to pay for that. And there's no way I would support anything like that.
No.
And there's really not much we can do on 9. We need an extra turn lane going east, an extra turn lane going onto the bridge,
Right.
a possible northbound lane going past the stadium to go northbound.
You're eating up my time.
Apologize. Go on.
All right. You had your time. So, yes, I understand all that, and this is something that we can all work together to see what we can do as a solution. So that builds up to a point that I've had a couple of constituents to reach out, and we all know what it's like to, at 5 o'clock, to come from either Beacon, but certainly from Fishkill, right at the Beacon Bridge on 9D and make the turns and everything else. And there's a lot of people that are doing crazy things to try to avoid waiting 5 or 10 minutes to, because they just don't have the patience for it. So DOT, they're going to work, our police department will work with DOT to come up with signs and whatever else that they can do on don't block the box. This will be a help, but we also know that we have proposed and we want to hire a traffic officer so we can station the traffic officer at these hot spots, especially down there.
Already budgeted for it?
So, already budgeted for it, and I'm happy for that. So, trying to take incremental steps. Now, a couple of other things here. I know that we've had a long meeting so far, very important. But I have to commend Sergeant Passano and Lieutenant Wood on, so I'm not going to get into the names of family members or the specifics of an issue, but they were extremely, extremely sensitive in handling a situation with someone and their autistic son. That was all I will say. I will not name names or addresses.
Good night, guys.
But there was a letter that came in, and we all read it, in talking about the sensitivity and the great and professional way that they were able to handle this situation and help with the son and help with the parents and get everybody connected with the right kind of services, and it's just a positive thing. So Sergeant Passano, Lieutenant Wood, good job. We, of course, are going to have the opportunity to go on Friday to the home opener and at the Renegades, now the Heritage Financial Park. Okay, God bless them. I understand that they want to really be involved in the community and help out, so we look forward to, as a liaison, I was glad to create that, to reconnect the food pantry and Peter Lyons in the baseball league here, Little League, and see if we can ramp that up again to help on the food pantry. Highway Department has, I won't go through the list, but they've got a lot of great projects coming up through the summertime for replacing piping and certainly surfacing of roads. One of the things I asked about is the sweeper coming around, because I love it when the sweeper comes around to get the stuff up from the winter, and that's going to be starting up really soon. So while you can now park your car on the street overnight, maybe don't do that for a while so the sweeper can come by and take care of your dirt on the street. Last thing is, I think it's time for us, actually, no, two things. Anecdotally, and I'm not opening you up to take my time again, but, we're talking about this warehouse tonight, and you brought up the fact that housing, we've got a lot of issues for housing to keep young people here, to start the families, have the careers, be involved in fire districts, volunteering, which we need to now get that tax credit on the agenda, don't you think?
Absolutely.
And move on that.
Greg, get that on the agenda?
So
work with Mr. Galba on the particulars?
I'll send you an email tomorrow, Steve.
Let's do that. But I don't know that this is at all possible, Mr. Cantor, but I sure would love for us to be able to talk to these people that are developing that warehouse down there and say, please give preference to hiring local, if you can, for whoever's coming in there, especially people that are with volunteer EMS and fire. I don't know how we can do that, but I would love to have them truly consider local people and young people that we want to have stay here. Just throwing that out there in the universe, and maybe someone's hearing this tonight. That is all that I have.
Just with the warehouse, with the two big things in the United States today are warehouses and self-storage facilities. So they're building this warehouse to spec, meaning that they don't have any tenants right now. And at the most, they'll have 2 tenants. Once we find out who's going in there, I think maybe we can talk to the new...
Let's do that.
So it
Let's
might
do
be
that.
premature. So when we find out who's going in there, we can make those requests. John?
Thank you. On Sunday, March 26th, along with some of my colleagues, we attended the monthly breakfast at Roundabout Fire District. On Sunday, April 2nd, we also attended the annual Palm Sunday breakfast at Dutchess Junction Fire District. That afternoon, the rec department conducted an Easter egg hunt, and I will tell you, it was rescheduled to Sunday because of the weather on Saturday, and I have to tell you, they do a great job. I have comments from people telling me how organized our rec department is. So that is a hats off. You know, it's nice pulling up to an event at 11:45 and everything's done. And that is our rec department. So thank you to everybody who works in the rec department. Just this afternoon, I spent a couple hours at the Poughkeepsie Area Chamber of Commerce to talk about benefits of becoming a member. So I'm going to be requesting this town board to put on for discussion, maybe at the 19th meeting, Greg?
Okay.
For the town to be a member of not only the Poughkeepsie Chamber, but even, unless we are already members of the Fishkill Business Association. I don't know if we are members of either, but.
Can we do that?
I looked into this once before. I didn't follow through on finishing it off, but my initial investigation showed that becoming a member of a business entity is not considered a legitimate municipal purpose.
Really?
Because the town is not in business.
Because they do have other municipalities who are members.
Well,
I did ask.
I'd be happy to talk with them and see if there's a way that we can make it happen.
Okay.
But it's something I'm going to have to look into before the board acts on it.
Okay. So we'll hold off on the 19th, Greg.
Okay. Are you finished, John?
One more thing.
Okay.
And so I'm working with our HR director, Suzanne Puma. We are putting on a defensive driver course for town employees that is basically paid for by our insurance broker. There is a $20 New York State imposed fee per person that I will be asking the town to cover that cost. And at the moment, Suzanne's working with the department heads and scheduling who's going to be showing up. So Suzanne's taking care of all that other stuff. But again, the broker's coming in to the town hall to take care of, it's about 6.5 hours of defensive driver. And that's all I got.
Would you like a follow-up?
This is actually from Jason Maeda. I guess it would be the report that Louise would read on the rec center. He asked for someone to read it, so I thought I would just go through these items real quickly.
Okay.
Okay? So I'm not going to pretend I'm Louise, but I'll do her report. Basically, Fishkill Hoops is their version of March Madness tournament that they had. Actually showed up for the last day, and it was amazing as far as the participation. Just a side note, they concluded their winter season for March Madness on their own. The finals were held on Saturday, March 18th, where 12 teams completed in championship of their respective divisions, all in one day. The event was full of plenty of action, some nail biters. one of the things that's fantastic this year is there's a video team there. Pete from Video Ventures was there, Rich and Eric from Murph from EDUBS Sports were on hand all day to provide live commentary. So it was streamed live, and all of those videos actually are available online. People can go back and look at them, and I'm sure families are excited about that. I thought that was a great, great touch. The Easter egg hunt, yes, we went to that, and John reported on that. Little Rascals Easter egg hunt was held March 30th. Fishkill Rec Center that was open. Toddlers 4 and under, 50-plus Little Rascals were able to enjoy play in our gym, so that was something else other than the outside. Lunch, Easter spring-themed balloon animals and petting zoo is included in the real Easter Bunny. And the event concluded with Easter Bunny visit. Easter egg hunt took place on April 2nd. We know that. I was there. I didn't get any Easter eggs. I'm extremely disappointed, but that's okay. It was a bit cold and windy on the Saturday when it was originally scheduled. 500 families did sign up, but they had to reschedule for Sunday, and it was an amazing turnout. And so, yes, once again, absolute kudos to that rec center and the staff. Jason and the staff, they're fantastic, and people love it, the things that they do. Officers Wood and Nesbitt held an Are You OK informational seminar at there at the rec, and Are You OK is one of the other programs, and I mentioned the situation with Sergeant Passanel and Lieutenant Wood, and that was in reference to the SNAP, Special Needs Assistance Program, which they educated this family on. So two very, very valuable Are You OK? Senior citizens can actually sign up for this, and it's an automatic call to call in and see, are you okay? You know, and you can set it up for a daily, weekly, or monthly call. If there is no answer, then someone's dispatched to go check on you. I just find that to be an amazing service. Active shooter training, the entire recreation team attended an active shooter training. Very sad thing that we have to do, but we have to do it, and it was done Thursday, March 30th, facilitated officers Tabone, Wood, Nesbitt, Fishkill Police Department. He says we added training a few hours a few hours ago to our list of annual training topics. Obviously, we hope never encounter active shooter. However, we were educated by the officers on how to best handle and react to such situations, leaving us better prepared for the event of an encounter. And I will say that John and I went to Fishkill Elementary last year, and we observed that same training with the summer staff there. That would be Louise's report. I hope I gave her honor in reading it.
Well done. In that report, there were 3 emails from Julia, Jeanette, and Danielle commending our staff at the rec center, Jason, Warren, and Mary Ann. Just want to mention that out. You're going to see a lot more as the town moves forward. You're seeing such great service in the rec center and senior center because we've added extra staff. And the overall shift of the town, instead of using resources to promote development, we're going to shift that to helping the residents when it comes to parks, recreation, and historical education. So you're going to see more of that, especially as we head on to the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. So more community-oriented, more parks, recreation, history, coming down the road. All right, so next up is discussions. First up is discussion of a resolution to authorize the budget modification of 2023 adopted general fund for JCAP grant award. The town received a nice grant to the Justice Court, and the Justice staff did a great job of getting it. Everybody okay with moving that to resolution?
Yes.
Consent? Next up is discussion of resolution to authorize amending the town's procurement policy. So we're going to up some of these limits to when we go out to bid for certain things. Everybody okay with that?
Very good. Yep.
Next up is discussion of resolution to authorize budget modification of 2023 adopted recreation fund budget for gym floor maintenance. So we're going to do some work on the gym floor. Everybody okay with that?
Sure.
Consent? Yep. Number 4, discussion of resolution to appoint part-time seasonal employees in the highway department.
Yes.
Everybody okay with consent?
Yep.
Yes.
Next up, discussion of resolution to accept a resignation of police assistant Kevin Coronel.
Very good.
We're good?
Yep.
Consent. Discussion of resolution to amend the fee schedule for the recreation department after-school program.
Yep, very Very good.
We're good?
I actually love that.
Discussion of 2023 recreation fund budget modification for an addition of an adventure camp.
That was awesome, yes.
More stuff for the rec center and seniors. This is just going to keep getting better. Next up is discussion of resolution to amend the fee schedule for I'm sorry, I said that one. Number 9, discussion of resolution to amend the fee schedule. All right, I messed that up. All right, number 8, discussion of resolution to amend the fee schedule for the adventure camp. Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Yep.
9, discussion of resolution to amend the fee schedule to establish a one-day marriage officiant license fee. So this is a new one. So you're allowed to come to town hall with somebody with proper ID and have that person marry you for $25.
I read that whole thing, I was like, what? But all right.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So if you want to have your friend or neighbor marry you, you can do it for $25. I'll do it for free. Yeah, I've done 16 marriages so far. 16, yeah. It's pretty,
17 yesterday.
17? Was it 17?
17 yesterday.
Yeah, I did 17 marriages so far. It's pretty cool. Next up, discussion of resolution, accept resignation of Police Detective Frank Dietrich. Everybody okay with that for consent?
Yep.
Yes.
Discussion of resolution authorize defensive driving course for town employees. Everybody okay with that consent?
Very good.
Discussion of resolution authorize solicitation bids for the 2023 highway material. Everybody good with that?
Yep.
Okay, next up is privilege of the floor for agenda items. Anything? You're up.
Start over down here. I do have one thing to speak to what Brian was talking about, hiring local. Yeah, that would be really amazing. And although Supervisor, you had mentioned that it was perhaps,
Andy, mind putting the
it was
microphone
perhaps premature. One thing that really stood out to me is, the clear cutting and several other permits, because I did FOIA a lot of the information on that site. It was all out of the area contractors, like somebody from Albany, one company from Rochester. So if you're going to build this giant warehouse, hire some local people. We got competent people right here.
The tree cutters were from Beekman.
What's that?
The tree cutters
Okay.
were from Beekman.
Well, there was some Albany and Rochester, and, so they didn't have to travel far to do that. Oh, no.
What was the name of the tree cutters?
Hold on a second. I have, someone asked me to read a statement on their behalf.
Isn't this about agenda items?
Anything on the agenda? It's got to be agenda related.
Yes, it is.
All right, then you're good to go.
I know the rules.
Okay.
Okay. Councilwoman Louise Daniele asked me to read the following. Councilmember Daniele, who is away on vacation, asked me to speak on this matter. She advised me that she asked the board that it not be added to the agenda, the defensive driving course for town employees, until Councilmember Istvan and herself returned from vacation. However, that request was disregarded. When she returns, she will speak of her dissatisfaction of Councilmember Foreman involving himself in town insurance matters, again, all caps, as insurance is his primary business. In her opinion, it appears to be another conflict of interest for him. Any resolution states it may provide a benefit to the town upon renewal, not that it actually will. So who will be benefiting from giving the class? Is it another friend of council members Foreman? And these were her words, and I'm sure she will elaborate when she returns.
Thank you, Ann.
Can't wait.
Anybody else? Mr. Cantor?
Hi again. I'll be real quick on this, but I'm really glad to see that agenda number 5 under consent is to reappoint Anthony Brozier to the planning board.
Yes.
And so I am very much in support of that. Anthony has been a great member of the planning board. He's also served admirably for the last couple of years as vice chair. So I'm really glad to see that going ahead.
I had a nice conversation with him. He seems really terrific. Yeah.
He is, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right. I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We got one resolution to dedicate the assessor's officer for Charles G. Thies. He was a longtime town board member and the assessor, and his family's got strong ties to the town of Fishkill. I would read the resolution. Whereas the late Charles G. Thies, I think he passed away a year or two ago, was a dedicated town assessor and later a town councilman in the town of Fishkill. And whereas into his retirement, Charles G. Thies served on the town's Board of Assessment Review. And whereas the town of Fishkill wishes to offer some tangible recognition to the lifetime dedication of service of Charles G. Thies to the residents of the town of Fishkill, now therefore be resolved by the town board as follows. Section 1, all whereas paragraphs are incorporated herein as referenced to set forth in full. Section 2, the town board hereby dedicates the town assessor's office space as Charles G. Thies Assessor's Office and directs the appropriate sign to effect to be installed in Town Hall in the Assessor's Office. Section 3, this will be effective immediately. I'll present that as a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. That's the only resolution.
Well, I thought we had the blasting.
I tabled that in the beginning for the next meeting.
I've done this, okay, you're right.
Next up will be an item for special consideration for a special permit for the town of Fishkill is in receipt of a peddler and solicitation permit application submitted by Thomas Manosi, BBQ Crew Food Truck to be located at 200 West Center. The application and the order, non-refundable application fee of $50 has been submitted. Have any questions on that?
No.
Okay. Now therefore be resolved, the town board of the town of Fishkill approves the peddler and solicitor license application for Thomas Manosi, a BBQ Crew Food Truck. Presented as a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
To give away free samples.
We'll find out when they open. Any new and old business? You already got your new business getting that on the agenda, right, for the firemen?
Yeah, I got a lot of stuff there, but you know what?
Go for it. Got
Just
time.
one new business type of thing is, you know, we've had discussions, we're renewing the mobile life support contract, and there's issues with proper coverage across town, and I'm just kind of thinking that we might need to start looking at a discussion of, yes, this is an expense, but this is why it will be a discussion. Do we think in terms of a town-wide mobile life service? So I just want to put that out there and think of, and see if we can eventually put this before town, the citizens of the town to vote on it and see if that's something they would like to do. You know, we seem to have some sort of lacking in certain areas, and I know that it can be extremely critical if life-threatening, so I think it's worthy of a discussion.
I don't support that, but if you get another councilman to put it on the agenda, we can discuss it. We have, those areas are covered by the Beacon Volunteer Ambulance Corp., and they had a little problem during COVID, but they've stepped it up and have been doing a good job ever since. Municipalities that have added extra ambulance staff still have the same problems. And, for example, in Poughkeepsie, I believe, 2 weeks ago, newspaper reported that the guy called for an ambulance. He ended up calling a taxi to get to the hospital. This is a county-wide problem. This is going to result in a tax for probably half the residents of the town of Fishkill and really demoralize a volunteer ambulance service. I think it's a slippery slope to get into this. We have fire departments that have staffing issues. I think it's a bad idea, but if you have a second to get this on there.
I'm talking about a discussion.
Well,
I'm not saying that I'm 100% for it. I just think that there's been enough commentary just to have a discussion about it. You know, that's all.
There's maybe, I've heard 2 or 3 people come to these board meetings for the last 4 years. We've discussed this. Getting this on the ballot will really open up a can of worms, but hey, listen, it's...
If it doesn't go anywhere, that's fine.
Listen, I'm okay for, you know, adding my name to discuss it, but the supervisor has a good point. I mean, I've been thinking, you know, talking to people about this. The issue is lack of personnel.
Right, and that's probably...
And I don't care whether it's Slope or Willen, or BVAC, or ambulance, they all have the same problem. There aren't enough people to staff these ambulances.
Right.
And the county is working to get some, what they call chase ambulances throughout the county. It's just a difficult situation. We have problems with the volunteer firemen because the young people can't afford to live here. The volunteer ambulance is a very similar situation. Like I mentioned, Poughkeepsie, the places that actually have extra ambulances still have the same problems because they just go other places. It's really a county issue, a state issue. This would result probably in a $75, $80 tax increase, and your average tax bill is probably about $500 a year. That'll be another 20% increase in your taxes over the year, and it's not just that. Every year, everything goes up. Your town tax might go up $10. Your county tax might go up $10. Your fire tax goes up $10. When you add everything together, it's over $100 a year. 10-year period is another $1,000.
So we've had the debate, I guess.
No, we didn't have to debate. Listen, one of my first rules was 2 board members want to put something on the agenda, we put it on the agenda.
We put it on for May and not necessarily 2 weeks from now? Brian, you okay with that?
Listen, I just want to and everything that you're talking about is also a major concern. And it's also very obvious to everyone because John and I have been working with every one of the fire districts, and we know that we have heard time and again, it's a desperate situation on volunteers. It's a desperate situation on staffing. I'm just scrambling for some sort of solution. Maybe this goes nowhere, and that's okay, but I just think it's worthy of a discussion. That's
All right, so put it on the May 2nd, first meeting in May.
you know.
Okay, John, you have anything?
Yeah, that's fine.
You got anything else?
No, I'm good.
So, not bad. Public hearing for the comprehensive plan, and we're out of here in 2 hours and 15 minutes. Everybody had the chance to speak as long as they wanted. That was a very good meeting. There's going to be a few issues that we have to correct with the comprehensive plan. We're going to hold that open. Did I officially hold that open to the next meeting?
I think you announced that it was being held open.
Is that good
Oh,
enough?
no, there was a vote on it, actually.
We voted.
We voted?
We voted.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
There was a motion. There was a
Public
motion.
hearing continues.
Public hearing continues. And anybody wants to have any written, send us an email or a letter, we'll take that. But otherwise, the next town board meeting will be, what day?
19th.
The 19th?
19th.
Thank you all for watching, and God bless America. Bye-bye.
God bless America.